Hi there, welcome to chandu.org. In this brief video tutorial, I'm going to explain to you what Power Pivot really is and why should you bother about it. In my opinion, Power Pivot is really the most awesome data analysis feature you will ever come across right inside Microsoft Excel. In fact, let me restate that. It is the most awesome data analysis tool that you can find probably anywhere in data analysis applications. Maybe there are one or two things that are available out there that can trump Power Pivot, but those are probably too costly and too time consuming to learn. Whereas Power Pivot is right there bundled in your Excel and just waiting to be unleashed so that it can do a lot of powerful data analysis and give you results that you thought would take forever to generate. Okay, I'm not going to pimp this any further because I know you're probably interested to know what this Power Pivot is all about and jump into it and see it for yourself. Okay, so let me go ahead and show that to you in a minute. So let's just jump into the Excel, and so here we are. In Excel. What I have prepared for you today is a very simple business related data. Let us imagine we are selling some sort of condiments like chocolates, biscuits and jellies, drinks and various other assortments to a bunch of people. These are what our customers are. So we have data for sales. Each sale is marked by a sale ID, a transaction ID. The sale happening at a certain point in time. Who is the customer who bought that particular sale, and what is the product that customer has purchased, and how many units, what is the quantity of the sale. So this is pretty much how any business data would look like when you're recording sales in a shop or even a big company like Walmart. Most of the time the sale data looks like this, right? Now when you want to do analysis of this data, what is the typical path that we take? We would go ahead and fill up the entire customer data here, not just the customer ID, but the name of the customer, the gender of the customer, the location of the customer, everything that is there associated with the customer is embedded here. Likewise, the product also, we would put the name of the product, the price of the product, and any category of the product, everything will go here, so that we can do some sort of analysis. So the first step somebody would do is fetch the customer name for the customer ID by looking into the customer database. So here we have all the customer names. ID number 1 corresponds to Albert. So we would put the name here Albert, because if I want to find out how much Albert has purchased, I would require that name here. Right? So we go ahead and write a very big VLOOKUP or index and match formula to fetch the customer name. Likewise, we go ahead and write something else to fetch their gender, location and what kind of profession Albert is leading. The same applies for products. Product ID P025 corresponds to drinks and the product name is product 25. The size of the product is large. Price is $2.4 and units per pack is 1. Okay, so we go ahead and get all these details here so that we could do some sort of meaningful analysis when we are looking at this data here. For example, we have the quantity. We don't know what is the sale value. Sale value is nothing but quantity multiplied by unit price, which is part of the product table. So we get the unit price from here and multiply that with the sale value to multiply that with the quantity to get the sales. Now this kind of analysis is not only time consuming, but it is also too slow, because every time you need to do something, you have to first bring it back to the transaction or the list of all the things that we have and then do it. So if you have for example, in this case we have something like let me just go to the last value. We have about 3,739 sales transactions. So that means for each customer, if I am bringing something like 4 different values, the name, gender, profession and location, we would need 4 multiplied by 3,739, roughly, something like 14,400 formulas we have to write to get all these values. And that's just for customer. What about product? Similarly, you have to write similar number of VLOOKUP formulas, and this can quickly slow down your Excel because you have just too many VLOOKUP formulas or any other formulas going all over. So this is the first area where you would really appreciate the power of Power Pivot. Now, Power Pivot is not really meant to minimize the VLOOKUP formulas. It is just a bonus thing that you are getting with Power Pivot. Power Pivot is really powerful and it can do a lot. Now, I won't be teasing you too much with what it can do and sing prices to its capabilities. Instead, let me go ahead and show you how easy it is to analyze data when you have information in 3 different lists like this. One of them is sales transactions, the other is customers, and finally the other one is products. Now, if you have 3 different data tables like this and you want to do any meaningful analysis, you need to somehow connect them so that you could do the analysis. The connection was done using VLOOKUP or some of these formulas earlier. Whereas with Power Pivot, there is no need for you to connect like this with formulas. You could set up connections between multiple tables and do the analysis. Before making any further progress, let me just remind you that Power Pivot and all these additional features that we are going to talk about are going to work only in Excel 2010 and above. So Excel 2010, Excel 2013 will have these features enabled. In Excel 2010, you need to install Power Pivot add-in by downloading it separately. In Excel 2013, Power Pivot comes pre-packaged with Excel. You just have to enable it. Okay, it's much like the solver or any of those kind of add-ins. It is there, you just have to turn it on. In Excel 2010, you have to download and install that add-in, give it permission so that you could do the analysis. Well, this is not too difficult. It is just an additional step you have to do. And I'm just going to go ahead and show you how to do the analysis. I'm assuming that you have Power Pivot installed. If not, you just keep this information in mind and go ahead and install Power Pivot and come back and play with this. Okay, so I'll go to Power Pivot. The first thing that we want to do is we want to take the information that is right in our Excel and we want to put it into the Power Pivot. Now, Power Pivot comes with its own window because this is a very powerful tool for analyzing data. All that analysis cannot be done right inside Excel, so they have created a small window where the analysis, the setup of data goes in, and then once the setup is done, the results will still go back to your Excel. Okay, so it is much like creating a complex pivot table, but just that the creation process happens elsewhere. So if you click on Power Pivot window button, it will open up another window that looks much like Excel, but this window is blank because we don't have any data here. Now you could import data from a database like a SQL Server or Access or Analysis Services or Power Pivot, or you could import it from a report or data feeds, text file, ODBC connections, or there is something called Azure Data Market where open data is available that you can subscribe to and download. Well, in our case, we don't need any of these. We just need data that is inside our Excel file. So we'll go to Excel and we select any one cell inside the products table. Remember, this is a table, right? So select any one cell inside the product tables, go to the Power Pivot tab and click on Create Linked Table. What we want to say is just take this data, put it in Power Pivot and link that with this data. The purpose of this is whenever there is a new product, you would just add it here, and because it is a linked table, Power Pivot will also know about it. So just do that, and all the products will be listed here as well. Now this particular screen in the Power Pivot window, this is Power Pivot window, not your original data, looks much like Excel, just that you cannot do anything. For example, you cannot edit these cells, or a lot of things that you can do in Excel you cannot do here, because this is a place where data is kept for analysis, not a place where you would edit the data. Okay, and there is a small link symbol, a chain symbol displayed here next to the products, indicating that this is a related table, right? Got it? So the first thing that we have to do is do a linked table for the products. The next thing that we would do is do the same for customers. So select any cell inside the customers table, create a linked table, and you would have customers. Finally, do the same for sales. So select something like a cell inside the sales table and go and create a linked table. So all the data that is in our Excel, customers, products and sales, is now part of Power Pivot as well. Products, customers and sales. Now we do know that the customer ID column in the sales table, is linked to the customer ID here. Likewise, product ID column in the product sales table is linked to the product ID in the products table. So how do we communicate this particular information? Well, we just go to diagram view, and all the three tables that we have are shown like this. For the sake of convenience, I'm going to drag this down and click on product ID and drag and drop it here like that. So we are just connecting product ID from products to customer sales. Power Pivot would set up a connection and shows these arrows like this. The arrow indicates that product ID here will be looked up in the products table, because products table is the source, so the arrow points to the products table. The next step is to do the same for customer. So drag and drop it here and it will show up like that. In case you are doubtful about this relationship, you could right click on the arrow, the line, and you can say edit relationship. So you can see what is the relationship that Excel has created. It says sales product ID will be looked up in the products product ID. Sales product ID will be looked up in the products product ID. This is similar to the language that we are used to. If I have a product ID in the sales table and if I want to find out the price, what would I do? I would go and look up in the products table for the product price. The same language is used here. Sales product ID will be looked up in the related lookup table, products product ID. Okay, I won't go and talk about this further. Now that we have set up the relationship, let us go to the data view again, and you can see that a relationship is available on this column and that column, and Excel has shown, Power Pivot has shown a special symbol indicating that there is some relationship going on there. Now that's about it. All we have done is linked the tables and established the relationship between the tables. Now let us go ahead and create our very first Power Pivot and see how easy it is for us to do any sort of analysis. So for that, in the Power Pivot window, just click on Pivot Table and click on that. And let us insert this pivot table in a new worksheet. Click OK. So we would get this familiar pivot table interface with the pivot table field list. There are a few things that are very different here. I'm just going to collapse ribbon so we have more screen space and I can show you. I'll drag this further down like that so I can show you what is the new thing. Sorry for that. So you can see that in a regular pivot table, we would only see, if I create a pivot table from sales, we would only see this many fields. These are the fields that are available. But because we have created a pivot table through Power Pivot, now all the tables that are available are shown as collapsed lists and their fields are available. What does this really mean? It might look somewhat confusing for those of you who have never seen this. So I'm just going to show a very simple but a very mind-blowing example. For example, if I am looking at the sales data, this is the transactional data, right? And if I'm looking at this and if I want to know what is the quantity of sale that we are selling to male and female groups, that is how many products we are selling to guys versus women. How would I do that analysis? With a regular pivot table, that is not even possible because we only have customer ID. We don't know what gender the customer ID belongs to unless we do a lookup formula. So the first thing that we would do is add a helper column here, bring the gender and then put it here and then create a pivot on top of it. Use the gender field to do the summary. Whereas now all I have to do is take the gender, drag and drop it in the row label area. So both genders that are available will be listed here, and take the quantity and drag and drop it in the values. Instantly Power Pivot will calculate and tell me that for females we are selling 4,711 units of product and for male 6,396. So you could get a sense that our customers, about 60% are males and the rest 40 or 41% are female. What if I want to see the breakup by gender but also with product categories? Well, it's very simple. You just take the category and add it next to the row label like that, or inside the columns. When you do that, you will see the breakup by category. So now you can see where the how the product sales are distributed by category. So you can see that, for example, something like biscuits, it's almost 1:2 ratio, whereas something like chocolates, it's almost same, maybe 6:7 or 7:8 kind of ratio. So this kind of information is very easy to obtain once you have linked all these tables, because all these tables are available, and when you link like this, it is instantly telling me the quantity. Now we only know the quantity. What if we want to analyze, for example, the total sale amount? Well, we know the quantity, but we don't know the sale amount. So let us go ahead and do that. Okay, to calculate the total sale amount corresponding to these quantities, the first thing that we need to do is to create an additional column. Of course, there are many ways to do this. For example, you could create probably a measure to do this, but we will do the easiest way. So we'll go to the sales table. Right now we have quantity, and we would ideally like to know what is the corresponding price for each of these products. So the simplest thing to do is go to the last column. Do you see this add column? This is where you could type any formula. Most of the formulas that you use in Excel would work here as well, and we can find the price using that. Well, if I'm doing it in traditional Excel way, what we would do is we would write a VLOOKUP product ID in the products table, get the corresponding price column and put it here. But that is too lengthy, and in Power Pivot we have a simpler formula that does all this magic automatically. This is called as related. Related, what do we want to relate here? For this particular product ID, we want to find the product price. So you don't have to specify any of these things, because already you have linked products ID to the products table. So all you have to tell Excel is, I want the product price for this particular row. So we'll just say related products price. Related product price. You see how simple this formula is. All we are saying is, I want the product price for this particular row. Whatever is the related price for that row, you give it to me. And when you press enter, Excel will automatically fill up this row, and all the prices corresponding to each row are indicated here. This is called as calculated column 1, which is a very ugly name. So we can just double click on that, and we will just say this is unit price, right? Unit price. And instantly unit price column is available. Now if you go back to the pivot and if you just refresh it, a unit price field is also available for us. So if I drag and drop it here, you would see something for the unit price as well. By default it is showing you the sum of unit prices, so it tells me that the total unit price for this is 653. Well, this is not actually correct. That is because it is just summing up all the unit prices for females in the biscuit. So female type of customers, product category is biscuit. Only summing up. It is not multiplying with quantity. So if a person, a female customer bought 3 units of chocolates or biscuits, that is not counted as 3 times. It is just counted as 1 time. So to fix that, we have to go one extra step. For that, first let me just remove these things. All these processes are similar to how you would edit and deal with pivot tables. So to calculate the product price multiplied by units, what we just need to do is we need to go back to the Power Pivot window and just add one more column that just multiplies this value with that value. Very simple, right? Equal to unit price multiplied by quantity. And when you press enter, all the values corresponding to each row for the sales table where the quantity multiplied by unit price are listed here, and you would get the complete totals for each row, sales totals. We can again call this as amount, right? And then let's come back here and refresh the pivot table. So we get the amount here, and now you can just drag and drop the amount into the pivot table so that it would show up the sale amounts broken up by gender and category. Now this thing will work for any type of report, not just gender and category, but you could put, for example, profession and category, profession and size. So you can see that by various professions and by various unit sizes, how much the sales are coming up. For example, the small size is giving us the lowest amount, whereas the large size is giving highest amount of sales, and the grand totals, everything. So any type of things that you can imagine can be done here. In fact, you could go one step ahead and you can add a slicer on, for example, category. So all the categories will be shown here as a slicer, and you could just filter the report instantly on any particular category. For example, this is the breakup of various professions and various sizes in the snacks category, how the sales are: biscuits, chocolates, drinks, jelly. Likewise, you could add any number of slices both vertically and horizontally and create a very powerful interactive report that can take data from multiple tables, connect all of it nicely inside the Excel memory, and show you the results you want without taking too much time. Now just let me remind you that what you have seen is merely the surface of what Power Pivot can do. We have not even used a very powerful feature called as measure. Measures can be used to create values here that are based on some calculation. Okay, so I have not shown you how to do that because I think that itself is another world, and we will save that for our Power Pivot course. But I hope I have raised your curiosity towards Power Pivot and have been able to demonstrate to you how powerful this particular feature is and how much time and energy it can save you, because you don't have to really worry about any of the formulas or any of those complicated things to create a connected report like this that does analysis automatically and presents results. So I hope you have enjoyed this little video, and I hope you are geared up for learning more. So what next? Well, what next is very interesting too. I am planning to launch a Power Pivot course in the first week of February, so that you can take all these concepts and do something really beautiful and powerful, like create a dashboard or automate a very big report and do a lot of analysis that you were not able to do earlier. Okay, so that is what our agenda is. So if you are interested, go ahead and join our Power Pivot waiting list. The course is almost in the conceptual stage, and I'm really fine-tuning various modules and other things. And I'm hoping to launch this course in the first week of February so that you can learn Power Pivot and do some pretty awesome and kick-ass things using it. Thanks again for taking time to watch this and learning something. I hope you have enjoyed it. Do let us know your feedback, and remember to join our Power Pivot course waiting list so that I can update you as soon as the course is ready. I wish you a great day ahead. Bye-bye.